Hi crew, this is Lionheart, here with another quick down and dirty sword review for you. This time we'll be doing this Tin Late Crusader sword. So this was sent to me from a friend on its way to its final destination. He offered it to me so I could check it out and see what I thought about it. I hadn't handled a Tin before, so I definitely wanted to take him up on the opportunity. So, this is it. Pretty sweet sword. And I'll give you the overall specs here and then just give you a quick down and dirty review. Just the general idea that what I'm trying to do with basically any sword I can get my hands on that hasn't already been reviewed by a ton of people. Just to get more good reviews out there for so people can find them and get some useful information for them. So, the Tin Late Crusader sword. This you can get new from Tin or one of their distributors for about $470. Overall, it is 42 inches long with a 34-inch blade. So, kind of average single-hander, average to slightly long single-hander. Weighs 3 pounds, 3 ounces. So, puts it a little heavy for a single-hander, but it is a longer one, so not too bad. It comes, I would call it kind of stage dull. It is very dull, not sharpened in the least, but it's clearly not supposed to be. So I don't know if they actually intend it to be therefore more versatile, so people can use it for stage, or they could sharpen it up and use it for cutting, whatever. But yeah, it is very, very dull edge. That's fine. That's how it is, though. It does not come with a scabbard. I don't know if Tins ever do, but this one didn't, and as far as I could see, they don't usually. The hilt construction, it does have a peened pommel. So blade comes all the way through there and gets peened over the pommel. I always talk about that. It's great when they do that. It's not always the case, and it doesn't mean it's a terrible sword if it's not peened. But yeah, it's usually with kind of modern medieval swords, collectors like them to be peened. So it's peened. It's got a leather over wood grip, so that's usually what everybody wants. That's there. Definitely a good steel guard and pommel as well. Not a cheap zinc or anything like that. Solid steel. The risers feel good that are built in there. I'm liking those. Really good grip. Let's see, what else do I have for you here? The point of balance. They say it's about 3 1/4, 3 1/8 off the guard there. Yep, that's about right. So right in there. Yep. So that's about where you want it for a sword like that. So that's pretty sweet. Let's see, the blade gap. That's not bad. So the blade gap, we get talking about this area in here in between the blade and the guard. And it's about, I don't know, maybe 1.5 mm, 2 millimeters. It's a little wider there, maybe 2 millimeters, but the other side it's probably about just over 1 millimeter. So pretty good. Not bad at all there. Let's see, the distal taper. Yeah, it definitely has distal taper. So distal taper is when you hear that, that's referring to the thickness here compared to the thickness along the whole edge all the way down to the tip. So if a sword has good distal taper, you ideally want it to be a little thicker, the steel to be a little thicker here, and then gradually thin out over the length of the sword. This one has minimal distal taper, but it is there. I don't ever measure them with calipers for these reviews. Again, we're just trying to do down and dirty quick reviews here. But it does appear to have a little bit of distal taper, and you can feel that when you go to flex it. It flexes as a sword should that has some distal taper. So decent distal taper there, not huge but adequate. Overall handling, yeah, I would say it's pretty good. It's with that good distal taper and point of balance, overall weight, overall length. It's right where it should be. I'd say it it moves pretty well. So not bad there at all. One thing I will note here is, and you can probably hear it, there is a bit of a rattle. Now, I don't think I'm going to necessarily hold that against Del Tin. I've heard almost exclusively good things about Del Tin. A rattle's not the end of the world by any means. It doesn't really make it less functional. But this sword has been pretty heavily used. It actually is worn through the grip in one spot here down to the wood. Just a little spot, and you can see there's some rust on the pommel, just a little bit of rust. And the blade has kind of nicks all down the blade. Yeah, you can actually see those. Just really, really minimal nicks. They're not gouges, just really small nicks. But somebody definitely used this sword, I'm figuring, either just playing around or, I mean, they could have been hacking at branches or potentially, because it's so dull, potentially even some kind of stage combat situation. Not sure, but at any time there, that guard could have come loose. And that said, that's very realistic for even a historic sword. The guards are going to come loose over time, so I'm really not going to hold it against this one. I think it probably just developed over its life. So overall, what's my thought on this sword? Overall, I love it. This sword looks and feels very real, and that's what I like in my swords. I have some Valiant Armory and Albion swords, and especially talking about someone like Albion with this in regards to their swords are too perfect for me in general. I said I have them, I like them, but would I like a little bit of variation from one of their swords to the next? Yeah, instead of it's absolute perfection with those, and I said that's great. Same thing with Valiant Army, absolute perfection. But I don't mind a little bit of variation, a little bit of a wave in the blade, a little bit of a blade gap, all that stuff. I like it because that's how, more often than not, that's how the real medieval ones would have been. So if I have a blade like this, that to me is very real, I appreciate that. This thing, as soon as I took it out of the box, I said, man, you could tell me this is a real, 13th century sword, 14th, 15th century, whatever, roughly where this is from, and I would believe it. This thing looks so darn genuine, looks and feels. It's just everything about it is just extremely realistic. So if that's how all Del Tins are, that's awesome, and I'm definitely a fan. I've been wanting to get theirs to try them out, so I think they're definitely on my list to now get one of. I found one I like. Now I just have to find who actually has it and get one. But I think that's it. So overall, I said I love it. I gave it about an 8 out of 10, and the points I took away for this one are the edge is so dull. Said for some people that could be a plus though. So take that with a grain of salt there. It's how bad of a thing that is. But yeah, the edge is quite dull. If I was going to sharpen this up, actually, which I am going to do for the friend that I'm sending it on to, it's going to take a significant amount of effort to get that sharp. It's not a big deal for me, but if someone does not have fancy sword sharpening skills, that's going to definitely be a pain. They can throw it through some kind of automatic sharpener that puts a really bad secondary bevel on it, but to get a really good edge on it, it's going to be take a lot of work or possibly be impossible for that person. So point off for that. Maybe a point off for the guard, but again, I think that's from use, so I'm not going to really hurt it. And then I'll do a point off for the overall fit and finish. While I like it, I think it's important to note that, compared to other swords, some people are going to not like that. Just a bit more of a blade gap than some have, that kind of thing. A little bit of waviness to the blade, not bad though. This fuller's real small on this. Again, historically correct though for some swords for sure. So, but yeah, overall 8 out of 10. That's a pretty darn high score. I do think the price, I say about $470 for this thing. Could be argued to be perhaps a little high, and that could be part of that 8 out of 10 score as well. we definitely see swords of this caliber in the $300 range. So $480 for it, $470. Yeah, it's maybe a little high. Not terrible, but probably a little high. You can definitely get even just a winless of the similar quality for that $300 range, maybe $350 at least. So a little high, not terrible. So that's my thoughts on it. Tin Late Crusader sword, pretty good overall sword. So hope that was useful. If you have any other questions about it, feel free to comment down below and ask me, or write me direct, whatever. And if you have another sword that you want to hear about that there's a chance maybe I have, please let me know. I'm trying to work through just about all the swords I have, 30, 40 plus swords, because a lot of them just don't have reviews out there. So I'm trying to get through a lot of them, and at least just put something out there about them each. That way people can have some reference when they're thinking about buying them. So, all right, thanks a lot. Until next time.